Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Embracing the Journey podcast. I am your host, Norris Frederick, and today I am here with Jamelle Sanders. For those who don't know him, serial entrepreneur, businessman, award-winning author, close friend. Let's introduce him. How are we doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
And he's all the way from North Carolina. We are coast to coast from North Carolina. So the pleasure's all mine, to be completely honest. So I've had the pleasure of following your journey. I've had the pleasure of seeing all the books that you're coming out with, all the things that you're doing in the public, the consulting work, and everything like that. The question of the day is this, and it's very, very simple. How do you have enough time in one day to do all this?
I think it goes back to prioritization. Like your life, everybody should have a clear vision for their life, and everybody has to prioritize their lives. And we really can do a lot more than we think we can do. It's just a matter of having those right priorities and owning your day.
Owning your day. Talk to us about that, because I feel like a lot of people don't have the ability to own their day. I feel like a lot of people, their day is owned by their job, right? Their 9 to 5 or whatever they may look at. But as an entrepreneur, a consultant, what do you mean when you say by owning your day?
I think owning your day starts with putting yourself first in your day. I think regardless of whether you're an entrepreneur or you work for an employer, that you're in control of your day, and how you start the day sets the tone or establishes the rhythm for that day and what you're able to get accomplished. And so even if it's 5, 10, 20 minutes in the morning, take that time for you, have a clear goal of what you want to get accomplished so that when you get to the end of the day, you're able to look with that sense of completion, knowing that you got something done that you wanted to do.
Love that. Love that. The thing that I like the most is how humble you are in this space. So a lot of people may not know like your Rolodex or your client list, but you work with some pretty influential individuals. How do you stay level-headed? How do you not let those people that have high status and high qualifications not control your day?
It still goes back to priorities. I take the first minutes of my day, and I own the first part of my day. It's all mine. And when it's time to switch into business, you give yourself entirely to that. And I think for me, it boils down to servant leadership. I think that one of the problems that we have with leadership today is that it's very ego driven and nobody wants to serve. And the problem is that if everybody is leading and nobody's serving, somebody's unnecessary. And so we should see.
I got to stop you though, because you've been hitting some powerful words. When you're talking about leading and serving, I beg of you to go into detail as to what that means.
The difference between leading and serving is the head and the heart. All it takes to lead is to have a head. You don't have to have a whole lot of other skills. If you can think, if you can manage, you can step into most leadership positions. But what I'm talking about, servant leadership, is heart. And I always tell people that servant leaders open the heart space of a person. It's not just management. It's not just duties and responsibilities, but how can I serve this person to get the best out of them and help them reach their full potential? That's what we need in leadership.
So, but ego comes into play. And ego destroys relationships, business and personal. It can discredit a leader. So if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm starting and I come from a background where I've had high success and my ego gets in the way, potentially in your experience, what can that do to a business?
It's going to cripple the business and it's going to ultimately destroy the business, because what we have to understand is that a lot of people go into entrepreneurship because they say they don't want to work for anybody. They want to be their own boss. They want to be in control. But at the end of the day, every entrepreneur has to serve somebody. And if you're not serving, you're not going to have clients, you're not going to have customers, you're not going to have anybody interested in what you're doing. And so what you have to do is humble yourself enough to say, how can I be of service? How can I bring the best to what I'm doing so that I can pull that out of the team and the people around me? And how can I incorporate that into my leadership style so that I can be most effective?
Love that. I love that. What have been challenges for you as far as being an entrepreneurship in the space that you're in?
I think the biggest challenge that I've had is in the beginning was staying true to who I was. I think that when I started out years ago, everybody was kind of life coaching and telling everybody, you know, you're going to have a good life and follow these principles, do A, B, C, D. And that really was not who I was. So it's like, okay, how do I get into this space? How do I do what I want to do, which is really around leadership and helping leaders reach their potential? And so I had to find a way to carve my own path, figure out who I was, understand that I was worthy of success and certain opportunities in my life, and just be comfortable being who I was. And if you put in the work and the time and you get really clear about who you are, you'll start attracting the right people.
Right. So laws of attraction, you familiar with it?
Mm-hmm.
If I am the type of person that only looks to the negative because it's a defense mechanism to me, am I attracting that?
Yeah, absolutely. What we have to understand is that whatever we think is what we're going to pull into our lives. And a lot of times, what I don't like about the self-help space is that we tell people just think positive thoughts, speak positive words, and your life is going to improve. Well, that's not really the case. What I've learned from a lot of years of work is that if I don't get my thinking aligned properly, it doesn't matter what goal or vision I have or what I want to achieve in my life, there's always going to be a breakdown in my success equation. And you have to take the time to work on your mind, to deal with the self-limiting beliefs, the perceptions that you hold about yourself that may be negative or toxic. Because if you don't, you're going to continue to attract more and more of what you don't want into your life.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Different.
Strange.
Offbeat.
Visionary.
Genius.
Amazing.
What makes you different makes you great.
Embrace your punch.
So laws of attraction, that's a real thing. And if you drink the Kool-Aid, it could be detrimental or it could be positive, right? So how does one live in that space without letting that affect their ego? So, and what I mean by that is simple. If I think that I'm the gift to the world because I want to change my current situation, how do I think and believe and move under that understanding without giving off the egotistical energy? How does one do that?
Great question. I think you have to go back to one simple question for me. Why do you want what you want? And why do you do what you do? If the motive is wrong, the entire foundation of whatever you build is going to be wrong. And a lot of times we say we want something for a particular reason, but deep down, that's not the truth. And when the motive is not right, we'll continue to attract more of what we don't want. And we don't understand why it's showing up in our lives, but it's really because of an underlying belief or a perception that we have about ourselves that keeps us from achieving what we want to achieve in our lives.
Wow. That I resonate with. In the past career, I was a professional athlete, and I truly believed that if I thought I was the best, I could be the best. And it led to be true. But one thing that I realized is a lot of people around me didn't understand that. And I came off a certain way to them. And having these high level of success, people start, in my experience, diminishing the hard work and they say things like you're gifted or you're talented. And it's like, but no, right? Like before I go to sleep at night, I'm running through all the positive things that have happened through me or to me throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm running through the positives in a competition and not really fixating on the negatives. So if someone were to ask me like, hey, are you good at track and field? And my response would be, I'm great. I'm one of the best in the world. But on the receiving end, I could imagine that that doesn't sound good or make somebody feel good by me having that abundance of confidence. What would you tell a person that is in that space right now, the abundance of confidence? What would you tell that person in order to keep them level-headed and on track? Because I feel like a lot of people are out to kind of knock them down a peg.
This is how I always say it. Somebody asked me about this years ago, and I told them that everything I am, everything I have, everything I ever hope to be, I have it because of the grace of God. And when you operate in that understanding that, yes, you are gifted, yes, you are talented, yes, you are great, yes, you do bring something to the world, but you have to understand in the midst of all that, that you're just a steward of a gift that you've been given, and that each of us has a gift. Somebody else may be different in a different platform or a different way. It humbles you because you realize that, yeah, you have a part in it, but there's also forces that are at work behind the scenes that are helping you to reach your best potential or put your best foot forward or to be the best in the world at what you do. That it's not all you, it's other ingredients that are helping you and shaping you into that person.
Right. But that could also play into self-confidence, right?
Yeah.
How can you be as great as you are at what you do while also not presenting to be better than people around you?
That's a loaded question. I don't think one thing we have to establish is that you can't control the perceptions of other people. So you can be highly gifted, highly talented, very humble, and somebody who is broken and battling with some form of dysfunction that may come off to them as arrogant or egotistical. So we can't get so caught up in the perceptions of other people. But what we can do, we can ask ourselves, am I treating this person as a humane human being? Am I treating this person honest? Am I treating this person caring? Am I being respectful with this individual? And I think if we keep those questions at the front of our minds, it will change how we interact with people. It will change the value we put on different people. And I think it'll produce a mutual respect for everybody at a different level because we'll have a better understanding of each person's contribution.
I don't know why the word ego keeps coming in to my mind. And I think, I want your opinion on this. What is more fragile, your pride or your ego?
Pride.
Pride.
I feel like ego is attached to pride, but pride is a bigger monster for a lot of people. And it's a bigger monster because a lot of times a person that's really prideful or egotistical, a lot of times it's rooted in some form of dysfunction, something that's broken somewhere in that individual where they've overcompensated in a particular area, whether it made you a perfectionist or overachiever or super competitive. You always have to have the edge over somebody else. It's something that has become flawed in that person that has caused it. And it's a great thing because it can drive you to success, but it won't sustain your success if you don't deal with that broken area in your life.
Wow, this is impressive because I feel like when it comes to the business space, coming from the competitive background, I often feel like I had an advantage. And I played an individual sport where I would only see my teammates, once or twice a year, and we would go out and do whatever we had to do. to bring home medals and so on and so forth. Stepping into this business space, I feel that the world's kind of slowed down. While I'm operating at the speed that I'm operating, I feel like I'm literally running past people. And when I tell people what it is that I do now and the things that I want to accomplish in life, it seems like I'm met with friction, and friction in the space of, well, how can you do all that? There's only 24 hours in a day. Or when do you sleep? Or do you have a degree with that? There's all these like limiting questions. If there are other people out there watching, and I'm sure that there are, what would be a piece of advice that you would give a hungry individual to stay on track?
Next week on the Embracing the Journey podcast.
Did you suffer an identity crisis as well?
All my life, I spent a lot of time comparing, competing, trying to blend in to certain groups instead of blending out. And I had to have the courage to just be who I am and be okay with it. Know your vision, know who you are, and trust your capabilities and your capacity to get it done. Nobody can stop you from walking through any door that you're assigned to walk through.